My name is Kelly St. John, and I'm a current athletic trainer at Concord University. The intervention I'm hoping to implement is called Me First, Us Second. The intervention is focused on mental health in high schoolers in West Virginia. The intervention aims to teach kids to notice personal signs of mental health struggles and to ask for help. Teachers and school counselors will give them the tools to help others out and notice warning signs of mental health problems in others. It will teach them that they need to be healthy themselves in order to help others, and it is good to ask for help when they are not well. The intervention will teach them the warning signs of depression and anxiety in others. They will be taught different resources that can be used to seek out if they are struggling. Coping mechanisms will also be taught, as well as ways to relax and unwind without using phones or computers. The difference between mental health and mental illness will also be taught for correct verbiage in the future. Parents will receive take-home handouts so that they know what the students are learning and can also create an open dialogue at home for their children to talk about mental health. The intervention will be aimed at all West Virginia high school students, grade 9 through 12. It'll take place over an 8-week duration starting in September. The desired outcomes will be increased mental health awareness and knowing how to seek help. Students should be able to detect signs in others to address their mental health, and students will be taught the social cognitive theory and how it can describe someone's behavior. To come up with this intervention, I first needed to research where there was a need. Around 1,514 high school students in West Virginia have reported that they have experienced a feeling of sadness or hopelessness for at least 2 weeks in a row or more that has affected their everyday activities. About 1,335 of them have attempted suicide at least once, with some numbers showing that they have attempted more than once. Around 14% of adolescents have reported having at least one major depressive episode in the year of 2015 when the survey was taken, which is higher than the national average. While researching on the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services website under the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, I found that West Virginia reported between 7.34% and 7.7% serious mental health illness in people aged 18 to 25, which is the ages right after getting out of high school. This was the second highest percentage reported amongst the states. While completing a literary search, I did not find much information for the recent 2 years on mental health in West Virginia schools. Much of the research has now been focused toward the opioid epidemic. The research should go back to mental health illness, since sometimes that can be the trigger for the opioid usage. As I stated before, the target setting will be West Virginia high schools, grade 9 through 12. Teachers will have the lesson times for the intervention throughout the 8 weeks of the program during the normal school day. Each week will include at least 2 separate lessons, but they are encouraged to incorporate more than that if the time allows during the school week. Informational pamphlets will be sent home to the parents to inform them on the intervention being implemented. This allows a group approach for the intervention between the teacher, the students, and the parents. Part of the action plan is setting the goals and objectives for the intervention. For this specific intervention, we have 3 goals, and each goal incorporates 2 objectives. The first goal of the intervention is to increase awareness of depression and anxiety, the 2 greatest known mental health illnesses. The session's objective 1 will be the sessions focused on depression and anxiety at least twice a week during the intervention time of the 8 weeks. The second objective would be to teach the warning signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety at least twice during the intervention. The second goal would be to introspectively assess their own mental health. This would be the students. The first objective would be to screen everyone with a PHQ-9 survey. This is a global survey for depression. It's a quick, easy 10-question questionnaire and is scored for depression. The second objective would be for all of the students to meet one-on-one with a counselor to talk about their PHQ-9 results, whether positive or negative, and the possible presence of mental illnesses and familial history of mental illness. third goal of the intervention would be to learn how to help others with mental health resources. The first objective would be to incorporate resource guides into each lesson for the students to have available at all times. This could include links to the websites that they are using in class, pamphlets or handouts. They also could find local resources at their library. The second objective would be to create mock situations for students to practice offering help to a friend. They would complete these at least 3 times. This would allow them to take the information they learn in the books and on the websites and put it into action with their classmates to practice for a real-life situation that may come up. As you can see, this is the PHQ-9, or the Patient Health Questionnaire. Students fill out the 9-question survey and rate symptoms from 0 to 3, 0 being not at all, and 3 being every day they experience the symptom. At the bottom, the students fill out how difficult the problems are. This allows licensed healthcare professionals to flag any students with high scores on the PHQ-9. Rating the symptoms allows the licensed healthcare professionals to have objective data to their clients. After treatment or time with a counselor, students may take the PHQ-9 again to see if there's improvement in their symptom scores and how they are feeling. To create the group approach, the pamphlets would be sent home at the beginning of the intervention to the parents about the program. This would allow them to ask any questions to the teachers or school counselors about the intervention that their children are experiencing. This can also help create the group dialogue about mental health in the home and at school. Visual, auditory, and physical learning would be used to accommodate any type of learner. Class sizes would be kept small to create an intimate discussion setting concerning sensitive topics like mental illness. Each lesson would be at least about 30 minutes, but would be encouraged to be longer. The class sizes, though they may be about 20 students, are encouraged to break up into smaller sizes so that students have the time to talk to fellow students about their feelings on mental illness and if they have been struggling. This creates trust amongst the group. The budget for the intervention would be pretty simple and all free. Teachers and counselors would access all of the materials online, as well as the students and the parents. Free websites would be linked to the online access, which could include the websites To Write Love on Her Arms, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and Mental Health America. These are all great websites for resources if someone is struggling with mental illness. As you can see below in the chart, the instructors will be free because they're school district staff, like the teachers and counselors, and materials would all be free online for anyone who desires to use the intervention. Here are some examples of the resources that would be available to the teachers, counselors, students, and parents. Here you can see the screen grabs of the 3 previously mentioned websites: To Write Love on Her Arms, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and Mental Health America. All of these incorporate great resources for students and adults if they are struggling with mental illness or if they know someone else who is struggling and needs help. Each weekly lessons would begin as a whole class to teach the lesson of the day or the topic of the day. After the basic information is presented, students would split into smaller groups for discussion and activities as stated previously. This could include worksheets. This could include looking at different websites or resources and exploring what they have to offer. It could also include the mock situations, as stated previously, that need to be implemented at least 3 times. Students could practice with each other how to approach a friend if they believe they're struggling with mental illness. Or this could even be applied to any family members that the students may have. Teachers typically have in-service days in August before the school year starts. This would be when the teachers and counselors learn the intervention materials during a designated day to learn about mental health. They would be encouraged to collaborate with each other for activities and ways to present materials. They would even be put through some exercises that they would be using for their students, like the mock, offering help, and presenting resources to a friend. The intervention would start in September to allow enough time for the classmates to already get to know each other. This would decrease any barriers that students may feel no trust towards a fellow classmate or friend. This is the timeline that would be used for the intervention over the 8 weeks. The first week would be the implementation of the PHQ-9 survey and a pre-survey on different resources. Students would take this survey at the beginning and the end of the intervention. It would ask them whether they know resources that they could use if they felt they were struggling with mental illness. It would also ask them whether they know information about general mental illnesses and what the signs or symptoms of the illnesses might be. The second week starts the first few lessons about mental health versus mental illness. This allows the students to know the correct verbiage to use in the future when talking about mental health. Week 3, the students would meet one-on-one with a counselor about their PHQ-9 survey results. This would also allow them to ask personal questions if they would like to talk with the counselor or talk about familial history they may have with mental health. Week 4 would include lessons of depression and anxiety and their signs and symptoms. Depression and anxiety are probably the most likely mental illnesses they will experience themselves or that their friends or family may experience. Week 5 incorporates ways to work on improving mental health. This includes coping or relaxation techniques. Students may learn to decrease phone time or screen time, and when they are struggling with mental illness, and to go for a hike or decrease the screen time when they are feeling down and looking at other people's lives on the internet. Week 6 would incorporate learning how to talk to a friend about their mental health. This would destigmatize mental health as it is currently in our society and allow them to have open communication with a friend and not be afraid to speak up and say, I have a problem. Week 7 teaches the students on how to be an advocate and help others destigmatize mental health. This could include them talking to their friends about if they are worried about their friends' mental health. Week 8 would have the students choose what else they want to learn about mental health and what questions they have. They would also provide the feedback on the intervention and take the survey that they took at the beginning of the intervention. This would allow the teachers and counselors to see if the students learned a lot about mental health during the intervention. Next comes the evaluation of the intervention as a whole. Questions would be asked: did at least 2 lessons occur for depression and anxiety and the warning signs of mental illness in general? Did every child take the PHQ-9 to fill out and have a one-on-one session with a counselor to talk about mental illness if they needed to? Students would again be asked the same questions in the beginning about their mental health knowledge and resources to see if they gained more knowledge about resources they can use. If they saw an increase in the students' knowledge, this would show that the intervention was successful in educating students about mental health and how they can seek help if they themselves are struggling or if any of their friends or family are struggling with mental illness. Next would be the evaluation of the total outcome of the intervention. Again, students would be asked if they feel that they could help someone struggling with mental illness. This could be an open dialogue at the end of the intervention, or students could write on a piece of paper and turn in what their feelings and thoughts were about the intervention as a whole. Teachers would also have a meeting at the end of the time period of the 8 weeks to talk about what they thought was successful or what might need to be changed in the future implementation of the intervention. Parents would also be offered the chance to talk to the school, teachers, or counselors about what changes or information they observed in their children and what they would like to see in the future if the intervention was implemented again. After the evaluations, program revisions should be made for the future implementation of the intervention. Data from the surveys the students take would need to be collected to see if they had improved knowledge after the intervention on mental health. Based on these surveys, the intervention could be longer than the 8 weeks and have reminders about resources distributed throughout the entire school year, like the internet websites. The students could also add posters around the school with information for others to read. They also could create infographics as part of their activities during their lessons about the mental illnesses that they are learning about and the possible signs and symptoms that some people may detect. Students could also start in small groups learning about a specific mental illness and then present to the entire class or school so that they would all learn about different mental illnesses. This would be the opposite of the current plan in place for the intervention. Small group work would still be encouraged to create the intimate settings so that students would build trust amongst their small group and feel comfortable talking about possible mental illnesses that they may have. Overall, mental health is a topic that needs to be taken seriously and destigmatized in today's society. The students will benefit from this intervention so that they can handle a mental illness in the future and know how to seek help or help a friend in need if the time comes. I hope that you will consider the implementation of this mental health intervention called Me First, Us Second in the West Virginia high schools.